What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast here on YouTube, guys. Look, he's pissed. He is pissed. Yes, Luther Burden is not a happy camper. Not with the Bears. Absolutely happy as Larry to be with the Chicago Bears. Which Larry? I don't know which Larry that is. It's really weird saying that, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, he is happy to be with the Bears. He's not so happy with his number. We'll talk about that as well. A bit of number envy going on there. But he is severely pissed at the NFL, and they're going to pay. That was his words. Well, look, Luther Burden was widely regarded by many as actually been the best receiver in this draft. He was widely regarded as being, the top guy. However, he fell to day two. He fell to the second round. Thank goodness for us, of course, that he fell to the second round. Because let's face it, if he'd been taken, if he had been taken in the first, if he'd been there, then we wouldn't have been able to get him, and that would not have been great for us. But if you look at who was taken before him and wide receivers that were actually picked before him, you look down that list. Obviously, Travis Hunter, who's kind of a dual threat. He's a cornerback, wide receiver, where he'll play, who knows? But you've got obviously Ted McMillan, who went to the Carolina Panthers. You have got obviously Matthew Golden, who went to the Packers. Emeka Egbuka, who went to the Bucks. I must say that one didn't make a lot of sense. Jaden Higgins, who went to the Texans. And then obviously Luther Burden in the 39th. Now these were all guys who, went before him that, weren't, I don't think, anywhere near as highly rated as Luther Burden coming into this draft. And Burden feels that. He feels that. And he is not happy in the slightest. Now, he was asked about this at the rookie minicamp today, and he was asked, how that affected him. Is that something that affected him, or is it just that he solely he moves on from this now? He's not really bothered. It's just something to move on with. However, in response to that, he said, "No, that's staying with me forever. Everybody who passed upon me, gotta pay." That's right. The rest of the NFL have got to pay for that snub. He has that chip on his shoulder. He wants to pay them back. He wants to show them that they got it wrong. Now, look, this is fantastic news for the Chicago Bears to have a receiver who is determined to prove the rest of the NFL that they were wrong to pass up on him. They were wrong to take the wide receivers they did. I mean, look, I think they were right because it means we got him. That's the main thing. But I can see for him, someone who's obviously clearly ambitious, who clearly is driven, who clearly wants to succeed in the NFL and become a top wide receiver, why he would be severely pissed off with this draft snub. And, look, he is one that really wants to prove the rest of the NFL that, he is going to be the best wide receiver from the 2025 class. Let's face it, the guy has got all the traits to be a top level wide receiver. As we saw kind of from his his seasons with Mizzou, he was fantastic. He was the best yards after catch guy that there was. He did an awful lot of good stuff there, and yes, his production did fall off this past year, but that was more down to the fact of some really dodgy quarterback play. Obviously, their first choice quarterback being out injured. There was some not great stuff there. Obviously, and Luther Burden suffered because of that. This was a guy who was very, very highly rated coming out of the draft. His skills are fantastic. He creates separation. He's explosive. He's got his natural hands. He's a natural catcher. Finished with an 85.9% stellar catch rate. Elite yards after catch, combining vision, correct balance, and lateral agility to turn quickly and to form chunk plays. Deep ball ability, compact and powerful. At 208 pounds, he allows him to play bigger than his height and bounce off tackle attempts. Brings serious juice as well. Shows a real dog mentality as a blocker. This is a guy who, really has everything. Scheme versatile weapon who can align anywhere. Dominated the slot while flashing ability to win outside. People have compared him, to Deebo Samuel. That's been his comparisons, that he's a Deebo type player, and certainly, with the the offensive innovativeness of Ben Johnson, but you've got a guy in Luther Burden who, that Ben Johnson can look forward to using and scheming up plays from, the same way that Kyle Shanahan did for Deebo Samuel. looking at the guy's stats, coming out of Mizzou, you've got obviously the top year for him was the 2023 season. But like I said, I think, that drop off in numbers in 2024 is down to some questionable quarterback play. The offense not been as effective in 2024 for Mizzou. A number of reasons there why he wasn't as good in 2024. And that may kind of explain why he slipped down the draft board to some degree. But, you go back across the whole of his college career. 45 receptions in his first year, 375 yards, averaged 8.3, 6 touchdowns with a long of 35. And then his career kind of really took off, that 2023 season, 26 receptions, 1,212 yards, averaged 14.1 yards per catch. That's elite. 9 TDs, 56 long. Last season, 61 receptions, 676 yards, still averaging 11.1 yards per catch, still 6 TDs, 44 was his long. He was also used occasionally in the running game. 2022, 18 carries for 88 yards, 4.9 average, 2 TDs with a long of 17. 2023, less so, 7 carries, 31 yards, 4.4, no TDs, 20 long. And in 2024, he did 9 carries for 115 yards, 12.8 average. That's pretty decent. 2 TDs, 61. So still 8 touchdowns last year in his final year with Mizzou. So, like I said, this is a guy who, can be, I think, a threat. Can be someone who you can perhaps start to think of him in a little bit in those Debo comparisons. But I think he's probably got the potential to be better than Debo. He's obviously got a better work ethic than Debo. He has got he's clearly fitter than Debo. Let's face it, he looks like a top guy. And I think, like I said, this message that the whole of the NFL got to pay for snubbing him is showing that he is driven and he is determined to succeed this coming season. Now, there was another question that came up was about him being the number 87 at practice today. Now, yes, 87. He was number 3, obviously, with Mizzou, but with the Bears today, he wore the number 87. And when he was questioned about why he wore the number 87, his response was because all the good numbers had gone. So it seems that he's not overly happy with the number 87 jersey. But the problem, I suppose, is that the Bears have retired an awful lot of jerseys. 3's gone, 5's gone, 7's gone. Obviously being the top sort of single figure numbers that wide receivers are allowed to use these days. 89 obviously has gone, absolutely gone. Let's face it was always going to go, wasn't it? Mike Ditka wore that number. 3, the number he wore in college, that his number has been retired. It was Bronco Nagurski's number. He's the Hall of Fame fullback and defensive tackle that played in the 30s and 40s. The 5, obviously, is George McAfee. The 7, George Halas, team's founder and owner. Obviously, we know Papa Bear. But numbers, a lot of numbers gone. So you look across the team as well in terms of what numbers are already out there. 2's gone, 4's gone, obviously. So, you face a situation where, there was a limited number of numbers, but it does seem that there is a little bit of I don't really like this number. It's not my number. But look, mate, embrace it. Make it your own. Make 87 famous. Make it the big number for the Bears this next coming season. Well, guys, let me know of what you think of Luther Burden's comments, guys. This is a guy who really excites me. He's my favourite pick of all the Bears picks. He's someone I think can make a huge difference to this team. And, I think one of the exciting things for me is what Ben Johnson's going to do with all this offensive talent. There is so much offensive talent there now with Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, all to throw the ball to. Then obviously you can mix into that Roshan Johnson, you can mix into that Kyle Monongai, DeAndre Swift. There is a lot of talent there for him to use and exploit and obviously get the best out of him, turn this offense into an absolute powerhouse in the NFC North and obviously in the NFL as a whole. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. Drop me a comment. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share and subscribe. And guys, let's always bear down. Catch you later, Chicago.